But we were bleeding money like crazy. And after 3 issues, we were out of our life savings. We had basically robbed all of Peter to pay Paul from our marketing company over. We had already closed the marketing company because we couldn't do that anymore because this was overtaking our lives. We didn't have money for food. We were behind on our mortgage. We were in some tough spots.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Coming all the way up here. Nashville, right? You guys are in Nashville?
Dallas.
Oh, Dallas. Yeah. Dallas. I don't know why I thought Nashville. It's a little cooler up here than down in Dallas at the moment. Are you guys freezing to death?
I think it's been great.
You think it's been great?
We wanted to beat the heat.
Living with your whole family in a van for how long you been in it now?
This is day 3.
Day 3 out of 14.
And I'm still loving it. So
but
ask me on day 14.
The reason
you guys should come back and we should do a podcast on day 13. We'll see.
The reason I'm acting so surprised is because you say that, the weather and you're not that cold or anything, because all I've heard for 2 days is you're freezing me out.
Oh, really? At night. Yeah, if he wants to open the windows it has gotten pretty chilly. We're not used to that kind of weather, but yeah, I'll take it. It's great.
Yeah. I'll remind you of that tonight.
Okay.
So are you guys, where are you going from Montana? Are you just kind of traveling wherever you want to go, or what's the plan?
Well, we're headed towards Coeur d'Alene, maybe over to Spokane. Just kind of exploring this whole little corridor. But the best thing about van life is you don't really need a plan.
Yeah.
So, but it was crazy. We ran into some people in Butte. This grandmother's taking her kids on a 60-day, 9 national park tour.
That's a cool grandma.
Yeah, but she's been planning for two years.
Wow.
We just rented this van, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, we made the decision.
Yeah, well, you and I, when we had talked down at TAC, this literally was just a few weeks ago that we decided. You were like, oh yeah, I'll let you know. And a few days later, you're like, yep, we're coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it happened fast.
Well, we got bit by the Montana bug, or at least I did, right? So I was up here for Mountain Tough's Tough Fest, and then I wanted to, Jocko is actually on our September-October cover.
Okay.
And that wasn't booked yet, and I needed to get that solidified. So I was laying on the couch at an Airbnb, not even an Airbnb, it was my buddy's apartment that he was crashing at. So I was crashing on the couch there. And I was laying there. I was going to fly home that morning, and I remember the story of Sonny Vaccaro from Nike having to fly, talk to Jordan's mom to sign him.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm 45 minutes away from the guy I want on my cover.
Yeah.
And I have not heard back. I called her up. I'm like, can I just cancel my trip home? I know it's Father's Day weekend, but can I cancel my trip home? I'm going to go up to TAC.
Oh, I totally encouraged you to. I was like, no, you're there. You'll be home in plenty of time. We can celebrate Father's Day any day. When you're 40 minutes away, you just go and you do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I drove up to Big Sky, and I kind of got bit by the bug, and I came home. I'm like, this is incredible. This weather in Texas sucks right now. It's 100 degrees. You cannot cool off. Even the shade, even at night, it's still 90 degrees.
Right.
And so I came home, and I was just in one of the most peaceful states I'd been in a while. I had no plans. I'm typically a complete planner. I drive her nuts with that stuff. But got home, and she's like, well, let's do it. We never pull the trigger on stuff.
Yeah.
Let's book a van. So next thing you know, she's on outdoorsy.com, finds a van in Bozeman. And I remember we booked it, and we both looked at each other like, holy crap, we're
doing this.
We're actually doing this. And how long ago?
That's cool.
2 weeks?
Well, with what you guys do too, you kind of can do your jobs remotely. I imagine, I don't know anything about publishing and running a magazine, but I would imagine mostly it's computer stuff. So why can't you go travel? And it's, I would say you guys have your little guy, Jack. How old is he?
4. He's about 4. To be 5.
Yeah. So I was saying this to somebody the other day. I was like, I remember when my kids were 4 or 5 and be like, yeah, when they're, older, we're going to do this and do that and whatnot. And then they get older, like my kids are now, 14, 16, 18, 20. And then you realize they have their own lives and they're busy.
Right.
And it's actually hard to go, where when you have a 4 or 5 year old, it's like, just throw them in and go, and they just go. And so this is the perfect time to, one kid, one little 4-year-old, grab him, throw him in the van and have at it. And I'm sure he's having a blast.
Oh, he's loving it. Yes. And we're just, we are taking turns almost. This week isn't so bad. We, are obviously 4th of July and giving our team a couple days off too. And we could get by this week, but next week we just are planning to take turns, a couple hours of work for him.
Right.
And I'll hang out with Jack and play. And vice versa.
Yep.
We brought our Starlink just in case.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's what's nice about Starlink.
Yeah, we can work on the road.
Yeah, that's smart.
I think what's
go ahead.
What I was going to say about what's interesting though is the publishing thing, and we could work anywhere remotely. But I think when you're on the trajectory and the grind like we are, it's really hard to kind of be doing this. So we really don't take a whole lot of time for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like we have a very small, nimble team, but when you have a small, nimble team, you can't be absent.
Yeah.
And so we always have to be going. So for something like this to give us a pause, is actually probably we're going to come back renewed, I would think. But I think, we're just about what you're saying about your kids. She just was listening to another podcast. I forget who you were talking about. What was that one about the guy who's like, hey, you grow up and your kids are eventually like 5. You only have them for about 5 more years until they want to start hanging out with their friends. She just was filling me in on this whole other deal she was listening to. And it just made so much sense,
Well, and I heard a stat here recently that when your kids turn 18, you will have spent 90% of the time you're going to spend with them in their life. You have already spent.
That's incredible.
So after 18, you got 10% left. And it makes sense, honestly. I mean, I even think about how much I'm around my parents. They're only 100 miles from here, but I'm up there once or twice a year maybe. You have your own, once Jack has his own family and his jobs and doing everything that he's doing down the road, you don't get tons of time. You get some holidays and a few days here and there, unless you're, fortunate to have them live next door. But a lot of times kids move away and do their thing, and it's a couple times a year. So this is definitely the time to, though it's not handy when you're trying to grow a business like you guys are doing, it's not necessarily handy. There's still time for work. I mean,
We'll figure it out.
So with Hook and Barrel magazine, how did that come along? I mean, how do you did you guys have experience in publishing before? Like, how do you just decide to start a magazine?
I get that
when
question.
Your last name is Radzwilla.
Yeah. Don't tell us it can't be done. No, man, it actually all kind of started. Natalie and I started at a PR firm, and then I left, and I was running a PR firm with Natalie. She was actually running it. I just was doing the pitching, and I got really tired of pitching the media. And I said to myself, I want to become the media.
Did you guys have degrees? Like, how did you both get into PR?
I was in marketing.
Okay.
I got a degree from Penn State. I was a marketing and management major.
Okay.
Natalie?
Yeah, I have several degrees. It was all in marketing, communications, advertising, and I was in sales my whole life. I mean, I can remember as far back, with my lemonade stand when I was little, but always in a marketing and sales role.
Really? Mm-hmm. Several degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I will brag on her. She how long were you, Mary Kay?
About 8 years.
9 cars, 3 pink Cadillacs.
Damn, you were good at sales.
I liked building the organization,
Really?
building the sales team, running it.
Yeah.
That was a little stint in my life. That was in the cosmetic and beauty world, but it was fun. I looked at it more of the challenge to grow the team, lead the team, build the team, train the team.
What made you get out of that or move on to something else?
It was just one of those things. I mean, it was pretty much the first thing that I did out of school. I worked for corporate America for a year and a half, and when I moved to Texas, and that was during the 2007, 2008 economy bomb. And I quickly learned that I needed to be around people. I needed to, I could see a lot of inconsistencies with the company that I was working for. I had a lot to contribute, I felt like, but I was also very young. So it's kind of knowing your place in corporate America. But I'm like, why can't I do this for myself?
Right.
And so anyways, I took a leap and started working for myself, but under that umbrella of the cosmetic company. And then after 8 years or so, I mean, I kind of felt like I did what I came to do. Got a little bit burnout, for various reasons. And John was working for a PR company at the time. And he got that, I had a little taste of that entrepreneurial bug doing what I was doing. It wasn't the full blown start from scratch idea on a napkin, grow from the kitchen table up. I mean, I had the umbrella of the infrastructure built. It was just me growing the sales team.
Sure.
But I got that taste, and he saw what it was like not to have a 9 to 5.
Right.
And so at that point, I just kind of encouraged him, and he started coming around, and I'm like, let's just start our own marketing and PR company. And we did.
When did you guys get married?
We got married in 2012, but we've been together since 2008. So it's,
So you were together kind of through that whole time?
Through the whole time. Yeah. Like right after college was when we met, and we've been together ever since. So,
and I grew up in a very not corporate family, but very, very hardworking Polish family. Like you work, 8 to 8 every day, and you stayed with that company, and you retired, and that was kind of your thing. So I was raised very, very
career oriented.
Very career oriented. My entire family's extremely career oriented. There's only a few
corporate oriented. I think is more the word. Like they're all career oriented.
Yeah, but the idea of starting,
but you start somewhere and you finish somewhere, and that's like your career. You just kind of
right, and you're not in this entrepreneurship thing. And I was watching what she was doing. I remember we actually had an argument one night. I'm like, can you just please get a 9 to 5? Like I am so tired of the crazy weekends and not seeing you at night.
Right.
And I will always remember that. And I'm always about 2 years behind her ideas. And eventually I came around, and
so you guys decided to start this PR company.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
And it was a small boutique firm in Dallas, but we had a slew of clients, everything from, bigger gun clubs, like membership-based gun clubs, to the world's richest marlin fishing tournament out of Cabo.
Really?
And that company. And I mean, from eye associate offices to med spas. I mean,
you could tell when she came on board. I was selling gun clubs and fishing tournaments,
car dealerships. I mean, we had the gamut, whiskey companies, some spirit companies. So we did a lot, and we had a lean team there too. But a lot of our clients wanted an outlet, and this is really how it kind of plugged his brain with this idea, is they wanted an outlet to reach that 35 to 50, 55-year-old market, our generation. And when you look out there as a marketing agency or PR company, I mean, we're trying to place our clients in magazines and billboards and wherever, and back then, so social media obviously wasn't as big as it is today. But
and what year was this that you guys got this idea for Hook and Barrel?
You got the idea like 2016, 2017. I would say.
We officially pulled the trigger in 2018.
Okay,
but
a couple years of thinking about it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, not
necessarily that.
Just wanting to come up with it. We spent couple years trying to think of what we could do. Like what is it that we're going to do that's going to be like a possible permanent job? This marketing thing is great. I'm getting burnt out, and I'm good at pitching gun clubs and fishing tournaments. She's pitching like med spas, and I'm like, I have no idea. How am I going to get like a Botox client on the news? Like what are we going to do?
Right.
And I was getting burnt out. And she was killing it in the sales area because that's what she could do. This girl could sell salt to a slug. Yeah. And
I'm like, you got to keep up.
Yeah. And I'm like, I cannot do anymore. I can't and so I'm like, I wish I could just become the media. So I had this kind of like half-baked idea I tried, and it didn't work very well. And I was sitting at a bar, and I thought to myself, man, I'm looking for like a redneck GQ. What would that be, right? Like I need something lifestyle, something that's hunting, fishing, but lifestyle. And I sat there and I thought for a long time. I couldn't come up with that idea. And right across the street was a Barnes & Noble. So I cashed out and went across to Barnes & Noble and went through all the racks. I'm like, all right, you got your GQs, your Maxims, your Men's Health, your Men's Journal. And then on the hunt, fish, shoot side, you have like your OSG properties, you have your Recoils of the world, you have your Athlon pubs like Ballistic and Skill Set. But there's no real like, I don't want to say wholesome, but like there's no like general interest. Yeah. And also on the other side of things, those guys didn't like on the Men's Health side and the GQ side, they don't necessarily agree with our values as people.
Right.
So I'm like, could I actually create this? What would it look like? So I picked up a few of them, headed back to the bar. The waitress was in the corner doing college work, and I'm like, hey, bring me a piece of paper. And so I drew out first. I'm a very visual person, so first I drew out what we would name this. I'm like, well, fishing, hook. I'm like, what can we? I don't want to be hook and bullet. That's a little harsh. let's do hook and barrel. That gives it more of a lifestyle. So it could be a barrel of a gun. It could be a barrel of whiskey. It could be a barrel of wine, whatever. And then I'm like, what's going to be the mark? What's going to be the Nike symbol that everybody wants? And I'm like, the ampersand. What can I do with it? So I'd start drawing. So I naturally put a little hook on the end. And then I'm like, how do I bring in the firearm side of it? And a lot of people think it's actually a deer horn, but actually in here, in the bottom part of the ampersand is a trigger guard, and that's a trigger.
Okay.
And so that was the barrel, and it kind of complemented each other. And I came home, I'm like, Nat, this is the idea. And she's like, well, what do you know about magazines? I'm like, I don't.
What was your first thought? Honestly.
I literally remember looking at you probably like a deer in the headlights, like, okay, I think that was my response. Okay. But I kind of knew it was coming a little bit because like I said, we kept trying to find an outlet to place our clients and we couldn't find what we were looking for.
Right.
And that's when the seeds really started planting with John is like, if we can't find it, let's become it. Mm-hmm. And I just, listen, we did really well with that company and we were living a great lifestyle. And I remember the first couple of people that we called that we had a very small connection to or relationship with that were in the publishing world. They were so discouraging, like, don't do it.
Well, you are trying to launch print in a digital age, right? A digital social media at its height. I mean, 2018, right? It's like, it seems like more and more social media is coming on board. More and more people just cruising through their phone and less magazines. But it's interesting also because during this, I'd say since that time, I see more and more, even just brands coming out with like a catalog. Yeah. Like catalogs went completely away. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was a kid, like getting the Cabela's catalog was like, I mean, I was going to spend the next 2 weeks going through making a list of everything I think I needed.
Probably takes 2 weeks. That thing's like 3 inches thick.
Yeah. But you do see, it's like all of a sudden I started getting some catalogs from brands or you pick up some other quality magazines that would come up in certain, maybe more niche spaces. And it's like, man, you kind of miss like having something sitting on the end table, like by your couch where you sit down at night or your chair to watch TV. And it's like, grab that. And, because it's interesting with content. I mean, this is something we as a brand battle with is you can make all this great content. And if you don't see it in that first 24 hours, it's just overtaken. It's to me, content is like an ocean and you can leave that foot track on the beach and then the next wave comes over and wipes it away.
Yep.
And that next wave of content from everyone that's putting everything out, people all the time, whether it's us being like, hey, did you see this video or did you see that? And it's like, no. And it's like, damn, we put a lot of work into that.
Yeah.
And no one saw it. And it's like, oh, they just didn't happen to look at Instagram or see our feed that day. Where with a magazine, you have in theory a whole nother month or 2 months or a quarter, depending on what the magazine is, to have that thing sit there. And maybe you don't look at it for 2 weeks and then you pick it up and you open it up and it's like, dang, this is a really cool article.
Yeah.
So it feels like you guys kind of launched into it's like you guys were swimming against the current really when you did it, which is really cool.
We were. And not only were people discouraging, but there were a few that were kind of like, so I reached out to some people that consider themselves at that time competitors, just to get some advice. And because at that point they were friends, but they were in a similar business, and they were a little nasty about it even. And so not only do we have the discouraging types, but then we also have the ones that are like, hey, I mean, this was almost verbatim. If you're going to be a burr under my saddle, I'll be a burr under yours. And I'm like, not only have you told me not to do it, now you've kind of challenged me. And there's something inside of me that's like, do not tell me not to do it, and then do not challenge me and threaten me at the same time, because I will do it just to prove you wrong. Even if I'm done afterwards, I will do it. And, but yeah, but it's interesting. Like, look at Nashville though. Like we work a lot with publicists. Mm-hmm. I still get vinyl. They send me vinyl. There are things that are coming back. And I think during that time, everyone was going digital. And I think it's like everything in our today's society. The pendulum will swing far one way and then it will swing far the other way. Mm-hmm. And eventually it all balances out somewhere in the middle. And those that are poised and positioned correctly will survive the swing back and will find that sweet spot. And I think that's kind of what we did. But the real trick to what we did was the distribution model, because she's like, well, how are we going to print this many? I'm like, well, we got to sell ads. And she's like, well, we can't sell ads unless we've got distribution, knucklehead. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I didn't think about that.
Did I say that word?
You didn't say knucklehead. You probably said something else. It's that the internet, the Italian inside said something else, I'm sure. But I'm like, well, I guess we're just, we could just give them away for free. And she's like, well, no, then you're just leaving them around. I'm like, you're right. We need to give it to the right person. So I started working the network, and lo and behold, I had a guy named Brad who knew another guy named Matt. And he's like, Matt might be able to help you. And I said, all right, cool. Well, let's like meet Matt and hang out. And we became friends and hung out a little bit. And he's like, well, if you ever get this business going, my uncle owns a bait shop in Missouri. I'm like, well, Bubba's Bait Shop, yeehaw, here we come, man. every I mean, think about the first store that picked up your knives or something like that. You need it one person, right?
Yep.
And we put together this business model, and I take it back to Matt, and he's like, dude, I love it. And as it turns out, he's like, how would you like all of the stores in Texas? I'm like, well, dude, I thought you said your uncle owns a bait shop in Missouri. And he's like, well, I don't tell many people who my family is because they ask for things, and you came to me with a great idea. My uncle is Johnny Morris.
Oh, damn.
And I'm like, that's not a bait shop. That is the bait shop. And so we moved into Texas, and
there was a lot of proving ground there. A lot of
for people that don't know, that's who started and owns Cabela's. So
Bass
Pro.
Yeah. And then bought Cabela's.
Right, bought it.
And so I remember we come up with the issue, and we could put it all together, and we hire a few people, a group of publishers, and
well, hold on, I want to step back just a little bit because I mean, and I understand that whole idea of like people telling you like you can't do it, either you're like it's a bad idea or it can't be done. Because I remember people telling me like you're going to make kind of a higher priced hunting knife, but you're going to do it all here in America, and you're going to charge a little bit more. Like you have to do that in China. It's not possible. You can't do it. And then that whole idea of, and it was like, well, I don't think so. I think people actually will support this, and like they want to buy things that are made in America. But the other part of it was, we did have dinner with one quote unquote competitor. At the time, we're not a competitor. We are now. But he was almost smug about the way, like, it was just kind of like, good luck, nice, you'll see. It's hard. You're not going to succeed. It was just like, I remember it wasn't that he just was like outright, like the people were against you, like working against us, but it was just kind of like patronizing, smug, whatever. And the other part of it is I grew up in the knife world, the custom knife world, where you could call and talk to people and learn how to do stuff, but you can't just call up some big factory and ask them. They're not going to tell you. I mean, they have, they're not going to give you any help. So I had to personally sit around at night and try to figure out how to make knives on a production scale. What I'm wanting to know is, before you got into some of those areas you were just going into, like, how did you figure it out? Were you Googling things? I mean, Google, where do you print a magazine? How do you print a magazine? Like, how did you, like, figure out how to make those first magazines?
This is I'll let you speak, but, well, go ahead.
Okay.
I don't want to cut you off.
Well, when we were running our marketing company, we did a lot of printing for various clients, and one of our clients was actually producing a magazine for his company. And so we put together the team and our creative director at the time, and she is the one that found what is actually now our printing company still to this day for Hook and Barrel.
But technically, she found somebody that was a third-party broker. And that third-party broker had a little bit of a slip up, and they sent us an invoice with the real printer's name. So he was marking it up. And I'm like, who is this printing company? I'm like, this isn't the company we're talking to. So we retro-engineered it. That's how we found the printer.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it was just kind of a slew of things just that overlapped from company to company. And
working those connections, like you said about the, you talk to one person and you talk to another, like, and those little breadcrumb trails can can lead to all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, there's the whole sandwich.
Yeah.
That's
You
right.
just got to pay attention to the details.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of is a part of our original story too, is we hired a group of people who I didn't necessarily jive so well with. And in the process, we ended up butting heads horribly. And also in that process, and I can't confirm this, but I also can't deny it. In the process, I met a photographer that was hired by them, and she had just done a photo shoot for us. And I said, "Hey, thank you so much for doing this. I'd love to hire you again." And this was at the point where we were bleeding. So back to the distribution model, we give it away for free. So rather than just leaving around dentist office and stuff, we started giving away for free at Bass Pro Shops. And that's how we got the numbers in order to get our first few initial advertisers.
Sure.
But we were bleeding money like crazy. And after 3 issues, we were out of our life savings. We had basically robbed all of Peter to pay Paul from our marketing company over. We had already closed the marketing company because we couldn't do that anymore because this was overtaking our lives. We didn't have money for food. We were behind on our mortgage. We were in some tough spots. So the question to the photographer was like, "Hey, we'd love to hire you. How much do you charge?" Because I was thinking of negotiating with her. She did a great job, and I couldn't do any more photography because I was doing the photography as well. And I think she said like $500, or no, she said no, $250 or something like that. And I said, "Well, how much was that on the line item? Because that sounds cheaper than we were told. I thought she was expensive. I was going to negotiate with her." And Natalie said, "I think it was like $500." So we looked.
I started putting 2 and 2 together, and just by contacting several people that we had, because the team that he's talking about that we hired, they were responsible for hiring the writers and the photographers and putting together the product. John was doing as much of a lift as he could. And I remember in our November, December issue that year, we're like, you know what? We were already working around the table. I mean, couldn't sleep because of the stress. I mean, let's just go there for a second. I mean, literally like couldn't even afford ramen some nights. I mean, but we knew we were onto something. And when you talk about, just similar to your story, like this idea starting on a napkin and coming to life on our kitchen table, and we still have the same kitchen table today, 6-7 years later. We call it the war table because there's so much blood, sweat, and tears, and like that table has seen us through everything, right? Yeah. But that was their role, this team that he's talking about. And so I started just, I was like, look, I was so emotionally invested because it's all of our money. And I needed to take a step back. I take the step back and I start looking, and I'm comparing and contrasting from like the previous 3 issues, and I'm asking them questions to send me the answers to, and I'm putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And long story short, they were charging like double than what
they were marking everything up.
Everything. And we couldn't even eat. And then like that November, December issue, he took on the workload that would typically have cost us around $6,000 to $8,000.
Because we were going to give them a Christmas bonus.
We wanted to treat our team right and do what we could. And and the invoice comes through, and it's literally for the same amount. And we're like, John just took on so much work and literally hasn't slept for weeks. And how is this the same price? And yada, yada. So we parted ways that next issue. And after that, we scrambled to find a new managing editor and new creative director, and
brought a lot of it into house.
Brought a lot in house. We smartened up. I mean, it was that trial and error that I guess we had to go through, and just that those trials and tribulations, really, of being that green. We were green in this space,
right?
And we learned quick.
And I think to answer your question is we had to retro engineer what they were doing too. We had to figure out that we were being they were boosting up the prices. We had to dissect the business. And I'm sure, as you know, there might be a part of Montana Knife Company that you might not know about. And then you go to look at it and you start learning about it. And we had to learn about every aspect of the business. And
when you're the owner, you look at it different.
Yeah.
You really do.
And that's how
being an agency or an employee.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we got a master's degree in publishing, because we were losing our house, and we had to learn. And we were also losing money when we didn't need to be losing money. So as we dissected the business, we learned how everything from the printing to actually hiring writers go and how you pay these people. And once we figured that out, we didn't need a publishing group anymore.
Right.
By issue 4, they were gone.
Yeah.
And we brought as much, and we started using third-party contractors, but brought all of the management side into house.
And I became the I became the publisher. So, and I just,
she runs the business. She's awesome. Women are awesome with details. I feel like I'm great with big picture ideas and these crazy ideas.
I had to become good. Like I had to become great at details because one of us needed to. It's not something that I was born with. I wouldn't say it's just not something that I've always been really excellent at.
Yeah.
But that's another thing too, as your money is on the line and your money is on the table.
Right.
Like every penny of it, and your house and everything.
But even
you get good.
Even having multiple degrees and stuff, you obviously have a work ethic and a tenacity that isn't normal for most people. I mean, it seems like, or with what you did with Mary Kay and whatnot, it's like you have a track record of kind of outworking people around you or going above and beyond it. It seems.
I don't expect anything less from myself. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it's just who I am. It's in my blood. I'm motivated by achievement. I like to see things grow, and I like to put my all into everything. It's just, that's my DNA.
Right.
And the work hard thing for my family too, like I was describing earlier. I mean, we'd work from sun up to sundown. That is the mark of my side of the family as well. And so you put both of us together. I mean, our hobby, well, actually, if you ask her what her hobby is today, she's been trying to get away from it, but what's your hobby?
I'm not answering that anymore.
Work. She won't answer that anymore, but like.
It's okay. I do like to work.
And even in our downtime, it's funny, if we're not working, we're learning about work. Like we're reading books, we're listening to podcasts, and
that's how it's been for me the last several years. And it's, when you're passionate about something, you actually do enjoy it. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not, sometimes doesn't get long or you don't get tired or whatever, but like when you're building something, it's a good kind of tired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're building something that someone's going to hold and read, and whether it's someone that you're highlighting in your magazine. I mean, this could be potentially one of their highlights of their careers, having an article written about them. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a heavy, not burden necessarily, but thing to have, knowing that like, if you're going to do an article about somebody, you guys, I'm sure, want to do it as well as possible to make sure they feel like they got represented well, and you covered the whole story well and had good photos and didn't leave anything out. And then the reader's going to sit there and experience that and experience whatever it is that you're writing about, or the person or the business or whatever. So it's,
well, and here's the next part of it though, is you could be passionate about something, but just like motivation, I think sometimes passion is very fleeting. It's dedication, it's consistency, it's discipline. And what fuels that is the growth that we have seen. So just, I'm sure, like Montana Knife, the more it grew, the more you became dedicated to it, the more consistent you got within the discipline you had to have behind it. But the next thing that comes into it is you've got these advertisers, these partners, and these are people who in the very beginning were like, who the heck are these kids? Like just buy an ad, get them out of the booth, right? Because we would just show up to SHOT Show with like ideas on paper, and we would walk around. And we would endure with persistence. We would take 100 no's to get one yes, but then another one would jump on, and another one would jump on. And actually, you were just at ARC with Sig. Sig was one of the first people that believed in us. And then you have that commitment to that guy, to that person that signed that first insertion order to buy that ad.
Right.
And then the next one comes on because the competitor sees, well, Sig's got it. Well, Springfield Armory's got to jump on.
Right.
And now I'm like, oh God, we're playing with Sig and Springfield. Like, we've got to deliver.
Right.
And now we work with every major manufacturer in the country, if not the world. Some of these are international brands.
Sure.
And now I carry that weight on my shoulders too. Like, how am I going to over deliver consistently for the people that believed in me when I had trouble even believing my own dream, because it was so crazy at that time to become a national magazine in the digital era.
Well, and it's one thing I told the team actually yesterday morning in our meeting. I said it's one thing to take, it's one thing to take over a space or an area. The way I explained this, honestly, a couple of years ago to our employees, and I've done it a couple times. I'm like, say on the hunt side, like we were trying to basically invade a country. And in the beginning, we sent in like spies in the dark, right? And just one or two of us in there working, trying to just trying to survive. And then you start to build this teeny tiny little outpost and not be noticed. And then next thing you know, you're building a small little base, and then all of a sudden a big base. And it's like, okay, now people are starting to notice you, and you have to just continue growing and growing and growing. And eventually you can't, no one's ignoring you now. Your competitors are coming after you.
Yep.
People are looking for you to make mistakes. And you get this foothold now. And I would even argue maybe on the hunt side, like, okay, now we may, not that we're fully there, but like we may own that country now, potentially. At least we're a big, big player in it. But the hard part now is you have to hold it.
Yep.
Right. And to your point, it's one thing to get to this point, but then how do you continue to deliver month after month, issue after issue, and keep it interesting and unique and exciting, and keep, like you say, keep those sponsors happy, keep your readers engaged, but also fend off other magazines that are going to start to, and you've probably already seen it. I feel like I've seen it, where you see some other magazines almost start to like edge some of their issues towards the feel of yours.
Yep, we're starting to see that.
Where it's like, that's looking a lot like kind of what we do over there.
Yeah. And a lot of it, there's two parts to that. The reputation we've built with a lot of the publicists help build that barrier to entry. But the other part of it is keeping a debt-free, nimble company like we have. We have zero debt, and we were saving money at this point. Like, we went from not having money to pay our mortgage to like, hey, let's start, like, are we going to buy another title? What are we going to do?
Right.
And one of our competitors recently closed up their print business. Athlon closed up their print business, and they did like Ballistic and Skill Set and moved it all to the digital platform. Well, we found out about that, November, December, something like that. And we found out there was a group of very, very talented people that flooded into the market. People that we've respected for so long, that have built reputations in our industry that are incredible. And so rather than maybe buying that rental property for Airbnb that we want to do, or the van that we want to actually build, or buying another title, or doing selfish, stupid things with the money, we invested in people. And when our competitor flinched, we pounced.
Right.
And we hired on some of the best. And unfortunately, we had to part ways with the group that we had hired after the first group. They were a great, great team. But we plateaued, and I knew where we were going. We had to make a move. And when we hired Nino Bosaz as our editorial director, and Nikki Morrison as our director of marketing and communications, we hired Laura Starita as our director of digital. She was their digital person. We hired on Jillian Dow. Now she handles all of our social media, all of our email blasts. Then we just hired a new digital guy. From our email service group. That was an interesting story itself. That's how we own the space, but I'm always watching what the competitors are doing.
Right.
And it's fun. Like, now when I share media camps, like I shared media camps with some really top competitors. Like, yeah, you're always in our marketing, our marketing meetings as a potential threat.
We hear that too.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah, no, I love it. And
makes me smile.
To be honest, we really don't look. We look very little at what our competitors doing, because we just feel like, man, if you just do what you believe is right,
Bingo.
and what you think is needed, and what your customers are telling you they want, you'll be fine. The minute you start looking around too much and start trying to emulate or, defend your territory too much by looking behind you, you're now not looking ahead.
Yep.
1,000%. And I tell John, John is the visionary behind this. He's part of that very small 1%, maybe less than 1% of humans out there that can that can just see 10, 20 years beyond where we are right now. And his concept for Hook and Barrel and the way that we are, and because of that concept of bringing your everyday celebrities onto the cover and throughout the magazine and talking lifestyle and all the things that we as outdoorsmen like to do, the music we listen to, the field to table and sea to table. We feature a lot of famous chefs, things like that. Drink section. So whiskeys, bourbons, tequilas, vodkas, craft beers from around the world. I mean, just really unique stories and things like interesting nuggets that I feel our generation just really loves to learn. No one else is doing that. And so he is always, he's always like pulling rabbits out of his hat. And now with Nino and investing in people the way that we did in our team, our company, the way that we did 6-8 months ago, it took us to a whole nother level. And now we're able to collaborate so much more. And it's not just him feeling like it's up to him to think of that next great idea. And then we're listening to readers' feedback. When we get feedback all the time, I'm sure you do too. I see your feedback too from your customers, but I don't know if a lot of other magazines out there are getting personalized emails of, hey, I read this story. And I mean, we just did something on Polaris and somebody wrote in that they went and bought that model from the story, you know.
Normally it's like, this story sucked. We didn't like it.
These
people are writing good things to us.
I mean, that was like a $20,000 machine that just, you know, but the fact that people are taking the time to write in or being like, you know, thanks for what you're doing for the outdoor industry. We're so happy to be a small part of that.
Well, the other thing that you guys do, I've run into you guys now a couple times at events, whether it's SHOT Show, TAC, the fact that the owners of the magazine is actually getting out there and immersing yourselves in the communities that you're in. Yeah. Man, that's huge, because then it also helps inform you as to how to put together better issues down the road, because you see what the public is interested in. You see what's popular, what's hot, or maybe you see something that's up and coming that nobody sees, but you notice it.
Yeah.
Like, this is worth writing about or talking about, or, you know.
You also got to live the lifestyle though too. I feel like a lot of times you might even see the owners out doing something. Not a lot of them, but you do. And I think, you know, we always say you got to show up if you want to grow up, right? And so we're always going, we're always networking. Like, you know, when Federal invited us up to do an ammunition factory tour, I'm like, yeah, I'll come and look at your factory, but I want to go to dinner with Jason Vanderbrink. I want to meet your CEO. Right. I'm not just coming up to do a story. I want to meet you. So you always have to be assertive. And sometimes I get a little, I don't know, a little anxious that we might be overstepping our bounds, but asking the asks that we do. But the worst somebody's going to say is no, right?
Sure.
And you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But then there's even a smaller percentage of the owners that are getting out there, but then actually doing the sport. And that's a lot of times, and I think it's indicative of running a company. It's hard to go out and enjoy, you know, 2 weeks of van life like we're doing when you're trying to run a company. But sometimes you got to take that pause, not only for your own mental health, but also to actually get out there. And not only did you meet the people behind the brands I'm taking along in the van, but now I'm actually using their product.
Well, like last night, this morning, like you said, an hour and a half ago, you were naked in a river. And, you were fishing this morning, and your little boy was finding, a deer antler last night.
First deer antler.
You guys were camping, and, it's cool because, I mean, and I probably misjudged it, honestly, when you texted me yesterday about looking for a spot to camp. It's like, well, I don't know you guys well. I don't know how far off, because I even thought about sending you way up where you ended up going. But it's like, well, it's kind of off the beaten road. And it's like, so I gave you a spot kind of by the river. It's actually hard to find spots by the river.
It's a beautiful spot.
But it's cool. Like, you were like, no, when you told me where you ended up, I was like, holy shit. Like, all right. Like, that's cool. I mean, you guys went like and did it for real.
I had a 4.5 going on 5-year-old tucked in my right arm, and on my left, I had my 10 millimeter. Like, we're sleeping out here in bear country in a tent. So
yeah, that's awesome. Natalie, what was your childhood like growing up? Where did you grow up?
Wow. Shifting gears. Okay. So,
well, I'm wondering how you got the drive that you got, it's like, what was maybe the kind of the upbringing, or what formed you to have the attitude you've got?
Sure. So my family's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And, I think as I have grown into an adult and just peeling back the layers of the onion and trying to kind of analyze the same things, just figuring things out about yourself and why you are the way that you are. I would say maybe it's just part of my family. My dad's side is, they were from Italy. Mm-hmm. And so the story goes, and unfortunately my great grandfather passed the year that I was born, but he came off. I mean, he showed up at Ellis Island, got on a train, and rode that train for hours, and to the point where he was so hungry, and he couldn't speak. He couldn't communicate with anybody else on the train. And as the story goes, he started clucking like a chicken, like I'm hungry, and he was rubbing his belly, and
he wanted eggs.
Oh,
and
breakfast.
yeah, I mean, just something, I don't know. And so, but that was the way that he tried to communicate with the people that were on the train, and they said, get off at this stop right here. That's how we ended up in Pittsburgh.
Really?
And, but Pittsburgh is steel mill country. Mm-hmm. I mean, and blue collar country. I come from a long line of really hard workers. My whole, both sides of my family. And so anyways, I think that was kind of like what was bred into all of us. And I attribute, obviously my mom and dad were very hard workers. I mean, a dual income family. I mean,
what did they do?
My dad worked for Dr. Pepper 7-Up at the time, and he started as a mechanic and worked his way up through management, and then eventually... I think he
started off sorting bottles, actually, even before that, like a 16-year-old sorting bottles, and then became the mechanic.
Yeah, no, well, I think it was the other way around. But mechanic, yeah, he used to work on cars and the trucks and everything, but worked his way up. It didn't go to college, didn't have a college degree, but back then, that was okay. And so then through the years he ran the distribution plant in Pittsburgh at the time for 20 some years. And then corporate, which is down in Plano, Texas, they brought him down, and he retired from I think it was Dr. Pepper Snapple at the time of that merger. Mm-hmm. And he was one of their executives. And so he truly just worked his way up.
That's
My
cool.
mom, same thing. She, they both started working. They got married when they were 17, almost 18 years old. My mom and dad met when they were 10, grew up together at the lake and got married right away. My dad, working as a mechanic, put my mom through college, and she just got her associate's degree and then worked for a major healthcare system in Pittsburgh for just as long, like 20 some years. And before they relocated to Texas, and she had an amazing job and did so well. And so I always saw my parents working really hard. The one thing though, I started playing tennis when I was 4 years old. My very first tennis lesson was when I was 4, and I grew up playing nationally and very competitively all the way through college. I attribute so much of my life lessons and my skills and my development to that sport and the way that I trained.
Tennis?
Yes.
Yeah, tennis, I've never played. I played one time at a hotel with my buddy, and I was like, holy shit, I don't know how they cover this whole court. Tennis, when I watch how much tennis players run and how much work and effort goes into to become actually good at tennis, I mean, and it's just you out there.
It's a mental sport.
It's a absolute mental grind. So that...
Toughest mental sport out there, statistically proven. Yeah. And it's wild. I mean, it is in between the 6 inches between your ears. I mean, it's just...
Where did you play college tennis at?
For a school called Mercyhurst University in Erie, Pennsylvania. And, and
just in Erie last week.
Were you?
Yeah.
Small town.
I just drove through there.
Crazy. Yeah. My school is there. Great experience, great college experience. But, so much was learned on the court, and I'll make posts about it and talk about it. It's something that, taught me just the discipline, the time management, the get knocked down, you get back up, you play with blood blisters popping on your feet and injuries, and you keep going. It taught me how to lose, and it taught me how to win, and it taught me how to do that eloquently,
Right.
on both ends of the spectrum, and just how to keep getting better. And
Right.
I think that that's, when I said earlier, I'm motivated by achievement, I think that that's probably really where I got it from. Is just the more I practiced, the better I got, the more matches I won, the more tournaments I won.
Right.
And it's just that evolution of life. You can apply it in anything, really.
What about you growing up? What'd your parents do?
So my dad was actually the mayor of our small town,
Okay.
and he ran a commercial electrical company. He was an electrician. Unfortunately, he passed when I was 7. My mom, when my dad was alive, she kind of was the secretary for the business, and she did all the accounting, but was just really a stay-at-home mom as well with me. Then after he passed, she remarried. That my stepfather and I, when I was younger, I guess I don't really remember a whole lot of it. I think I put a lot of it out of my head. I don't know if we ever really connected. And as I got older, it became, as the testosterone started flowing, we start really butting heads. And that eventually led to my mom and my stepfather's divorce. So I really didn't have, like, my family has a legacy of being very hard workers. I didn't necessarily have that role model growing up, but what was interesting though, I think when you lose a parent, especially a father as a man, you kind of live with this legacy of who he was, and he may or may not have been that, but he's what you build it up in your head.
Sure.
And, but I got so much feedback from the community that he served as the mayor of. He was elected and elected and elected. And, you'd hear stories about how great your dad was, and
Right.
and you start building this up in your head, and
Something that you almost have to strive for.
yeah, and I don't know what the goal is. I
Yeah.
don't know what the goal is, because I never really.
How did he pass away?
Heart attack?
Dang.
Yeah, he was coming home from a city council meeting. They were building a large warehouse center on the backside of the town, and they had to bring the 18-wheelers through the town. And he was fighting that tooth and nail because he didn't want the small town ruined by the traffic for the distribution center. And, he definitely wasn't the healthiest guy, smoking, 2 to 3 packs of Marlboro Reds a day. And, he didn't drink, but.
You're sure Hillary wasn't one of those truck drivers?
No. But,
Well, they
found him dead alongside the road in his truck. So,
damn.
yeah.
That's very formative, though. I mean, as far as I can see that going. Obviously, we've seen that go both ways. But obviously, you've turned that into fuel for yourself. Like you say, whether or not the image you have in your mind that you've built up of your dad is true or not, which sounds like probably mostly is true. But even if that's what you need to do to drive yourself, that's a healthy thing, as long as it's controlled.
Yeah,
absolutely. You don't let it get too out of control of feeling like you're striving for something that's impossible to achieve either.
Yeah, you have to keep it. You have to keep things real in your head. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just. I don't know how to put it. I think when you don't really know where the goal is and what you're really trying to live up to, but you're also a highly competitive person. You're always
a little like a compass without a magnetic north, kind of.
Yeah, but you just know the direction you got to go, and you just don't give up. And I think what's interesting is right about the time Hook and Barrel really made its stride is about, because we had truly planned this family. We were putting off having children and all these things because we knew what we wanted to do, and we knew that having a child at that particular time would be a bad idea. But when Hook and Barrel really hit its stride is when we had Jack, and Jack's actually named after my dad. And at that point, now I'm building a different legacy. I'm not living up to my dad's legacy.
Right.
I'm now trying to build a legacy for my son. And what do I want that to be?
Right.
And what do I want him to see in his head? And I think if you take all of the history of my family, and then you take her family's history and you put it together, really what kind of motivates me and keeps me going is building the best example, and building the best damn little American I can.
Right.
I mean, he's gonna have some boots to fill, but we're gonna make sure he fills them. But every day we're trying to teach him lessons. It's funny, like, the other day he didn't want to go to jujitsu, and I pulled up, Jocko's Good, the viral video, and I made a 4.5-year-old watch Good. He just wanted to watch like Paw Patrol. I'm like, you're watching Jocko.
That's awesome.
But when you grow up without a dad, you start finding other mentors.
Yep.
And luckily, you're right. You could either go both ways. Your mentor could be some drug addict who lives in the basement with his family, and you kind of go off the deep end. You end up like living that lifestyle. Or you fill those role models with the right person. And, those kind of pivot too. I think when you grow up without a dad, you kind of, you cling to different male father figures. But the ones I have that I've known personally have always been great people. And then I supplement with other great, mentors that whether they know it or not, whether it be Jocko or it be other authors I'm reading. And, and luckily I've been blessed enough in this position now with Hook and Barrel that I get to meet a lot of these people.
Sure.
And so, when I first met Jocko, I was like, dude, Extreme Ownership, that book changed my life. I read that when we were going through, we were knee deep in the shit, man. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I read that book. I still actually have it with me. It's just full of like dog ears and circles and stuff. He's like, no, you didn't do that. Or the book didn't do that. You did that.
Sure.
And he was very gracious about that and the way he put it. But yeah, that's kind of my mentorship.
Yeah.
I look for different resources all the time.
Now, you obviously also, and I only just overheard as I walked up when I'd seen you a few weeks ago. You were training for something. Was it High Rocks or something? You were training.
Yeah,
I heard something about you training. You said you missed nationals or
Worlds.
50
seconds.
So I don't actually even know what High Rocks is. So you clearly you're obviously fit. You two are like the most beautiful couple I think on the planet. You guys would win like hottest couple award in America between the two of you.
She carries most of that weight.
When we walked in downstairs, I wanted to tell the girls down there, like, he's married, she's right around the corner, control yourself, girls. And then when she walked in, then all the guys had already seen you, and they're like, well, I guess we better not mess with her. What is High Rocks?
High Rocks is the World Series of Fitness Racing. That's their moniker.
So how does it differ than CrossFit? What is it?
So if CrossFit and a 10K was to have a baby, that's what this is. So it's a series of events. There's 8 particular events or zones as they call them. And in between each is a 1,000-meter or 0.62 mile run.
Okay.
So you run and then you do 1,000 meters on a ski machine. Then you run and you do a sled push, run, sled pull, run, burpee broad jumps, run, 1,000 meters on a rowing machine. Then you run and you're doing farmer's carries. Then you run and you're doing lunges. And then you run and you're doing 100 wall balls. And then you run through the finish line.
This is all with a lot of weight. This is a ton of weight, like 75 pounds each on the farmer's carry, right?
Yeah, 70.
70.
Yeah. 440 pounds on the sleds and 330 on the pool. But is
it always the same?
It is the same race. But what's really cool about it is it's global. So there are races from Dallas to Singapore and back. And so you're competing against the top athletes around the world. And I think this year...
the exact same thing. So you can really measure yourself against the world.
Yes. And so...
what made you decide to chase this challenge as you built a company?
Dude, one of my very good friends and actually a fitness mentor of mine, his name's Talon Smith. He's a Navy corpsman or a reservist right now. He was attached to 3rd Recon, I believe. I met him through the PR business that we were running. We ran a challenge called Beast Mode for the Brave. Talon started that veterans initiative with Chris Kyle. And when I was doing PR, I was hired by Beast Mode for the Brave, which was ran by Jeff Kyle and Wayne and Debbie. And in this process, I met this crazy kid, Talon Smith. And Talon's like, dude, we got this idea and we're going to go to LA and we're going to film these videos. And I'm friends with Dean Cain and we're going to do, and I'm like, Talon, slow down. What? But the guy is an absolute, he is 1% of a 1% of a 1%er. The kid literally has an aneurysm in his heart right now, a hole in his heart. He finished a 100-mile ultra marathon with rhabdo. He just doesn't quit. He doesn't know when to quit. And he was big into CrossFit while going to med school, while still serving our country, while owning a CrossFit gym.
Damn.
Yeah, the kid didn't stop. And it was just last year, actually, maybe it was a year and a half ago, I was again, sitting in a bar. It sounds like I'm a drunk. Actually, I don't even drink anymore because of High Rocks. But I was sitting in a bar in town. He's like, hey, man, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know, man. He's like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, well, I'm at a bar having a drink with some friends. He's like, dude, there's this thing called the PFT, the physical fitness test. It's for this thing called High Rocks I'm doing. It's at a local gym. I'm going to be there. You want to like meet up? You want to do it? I'm like, shit, yeah, man, let's do it. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Got my ass handed to me, but as it turns out, I actually did pretty well. And
you did great. He finished second at like the entire thing.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You finished second in your whole heat.
I made my heat.
Yes.
I don't know. I didn't do that. I got a silver. I didn't get a gold. I know that.
Well, that would make you second.
Well, yeah, but there was like 300 people. But anyway, I got hooked.
You got to learn to not argue with her.
I know. I should just shut up and follow because it just fall in line. But no,
The details, Josh.
the details, right? Exactly. So I did really well, and then the organizer who was working with Talon, lo and behold, I don't know if it was fixed or not. I won the free entry into the Dallas High Rocks. I'm like, out of all these people, come on, Talon. Jeez, come. All right, I'm doing this. All right, let's do it. And I did it with a buddy from the gym, and we finished in like an hour 8. Clay and I did really well. We trained for it, and man, I just caught the bug. But it was always a dream, and I love Talon like a brother, but like he was always a fitness mentor of mine, and it was always a dream to run with Talon. And he's like, "Hey man, Houston's coming up. You want to run Houston with me?" I'm like, "Dude, like that's like let's go play catch with Tom Brady. Like let's go do this." So we did, and we ran really well. And the problem with Houston, it's another Talon thing. He's like, hey, man, we just didn't sign up for open class. I forgot to tell you, I signed you up for pro. I'm like, pro? What's pro? He's like, well, it's just a little bit more on the sleds, like just like 440 pounds. I'm like, okay, you suck, man. But let's do it. So we podiumed. We took second place. And we lost by 55 wall balls. And then, then I was really hooked. Now I'm like, I only lost, but I saw the guys cross the finish line. Again, it's like one of those kind of things, like, don't challenge me. Like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So we signed up again for New York City, and we ran even faster. And we actually beat our time there by almost 2 minutes. And no, maybe a little bit less. We finished in an hour and 37 seconds versus, I think it was 1:01:17, whatever that math is. See, I'm good with details. I know how much I lose by. It's just a motivator. Anyway, so yeah, we did really, really well there. Unfortunately, we missed our world slot by 50 seconds in the pro level, but we would have been
going 50?
5-0. Yeah.
That's still a lot of time to shave off because you said you're going an hour and 30.
No, I went an hour and 37 seconds.
Okay. So yeah. Dang.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
so you have to be just under an hour to qualify for Worlds.
No, not really. So it varies by race. So there's usually one qualifying spot. New York had 2. So I think when like first place was 57 minutes, second place was like 59 and change, and we were an hour and 37 seconds. So we missed it by 50 seconds overall.
Boy, those guys that are going 57 minutes, that's moving.
Yeah.
Oh, they're beasts. But Talon and John are right there. I mean, he just started training at this level just this year, this year. So it's amazing to see the two of them. I have no doubt you're going to make it.
You're going to stay after it and go after it next year?
I'm already signed up. Yeah. I'm all in. Yep. I'm all in. Actually, it's addictive. It's really
been fun to watch,
but it gets sick. It gets stupid though because
you're definitely not doing it. Just fun to watch it.
Do you go
work out with them?
Oh man, so this is a whole nother story. I actually had a really bad back surgery. Almost September makes 2 years, and unfortunately, the cage was put in my back crooked, and it impacted the back of my vertebrae.
Oh, wow.
Broke my vertebrae into my nerve root, and I have drop foot, and I have nerve damage, and I have a slew of things, and it's been a really challenging couple of years, but so I can't even jog yet.
Really?
But just on trying to be on the mend.
Was that back injury just left over from tennis, like just the wear and tear on tennis? Is that?
I think it's probably where it started.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Just there's
so much
low
torque
back weakness.
on serving with serving, and then just those. I see it all the time. The way those tennis players are returning balls and the twisting and it's aggressive on the body.
It's a lot. I just wish I found a better doctor
Yeah.
to do it.
I'm gonna give you a really cool industry story though. This is what I love about our industry, the industry that we're collectively in. That happened September of 2022, and it was right after her first elk hunt, and she went on that elk hunt with Federal, and so JV Jason Vanderbrink, the CEO of Federal, had invited me on that hunt, and I said, look, she's always wanted to shoot an elk. Can we have her? I'll just come along as the guy that carries her bag. I'll be the Sherpa. So fast forward, surgery's like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I postponed my back surgery so that I could go on that elk hunt.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of pain, but
Yeah.
I did it.
She did it.
Yeah, it's 16 miles.
Yeah, she got a great bull.
Damn.
But so we end up at Dallas Safari Club in January, and she's in a wheelchair. And JV sees her and goes, What happened? How'd you end up in this wheelchair? And she tells him the story, and small talk kind of ensues. And she's like, well, did you buy any great hunts, Jason? And he's like, yeah, red stag in New Zealand. She's like, that's my dream hunt. I've always wanted to do that. And you could just see like the tears in her eyes, and she's now in a wheelchair after this botched back surgery. And this is how cool he is in our industry and the great kind of people that are in our industry. He's like, listen, if you could get it done and get out of that wheelchair, I got an extra tag for you, and we'll take care of that flight if you could get to New Zealand and get out of that chair. And it was like the ultimate carrot for the donkey.
That's cool
to get going. And I've never seen somebody. I mean, I brag on her a lot, but I mean, what was that like? How many hours a week were you in PT to get out of that wheelchair to make that trip?
A lot. 3 to 4 days a week. I mean, 3 hours at a time. I mean, I had to learn how to walk again.
Really?
And if it had not been for JV offering that, I know she would have eventually, but probably a very extended timeline.
Right.
And trekking poles and all through New Zealand, it was very painful. I was the Sherpa again, but I was a very proud Sherpa.
That's cool.
Yeah, she got one hell of a stag.
Not necessarily like the way that I had envisioned that dream hunt.
Yeah.
But I mean, so much spiritualness in that, because it like was a dream, because I, go from being this healthy athlete to
right.
back surgery gone way wrong, an autoimmune disease from it, like immediately off the table. I had an emergency surgery 24 hours later. Like things were really, really bad.
Yeah.
Walker, wheelchair, pain so bad I was convulsing and like that.
Well,
like
people
really
can't-
bad.
Not to compare mine to yours, but the people can't understand back pain and nerve pain until they've had it. Because I ruptured a disc and had back surgery, and I had the whole drop foot thing temporarily, where my right foot was completely numb and couldn't lift my toes.
Yeah.
And the spasming was so bad, it would pull my entire rib cage and my sternum. I mean, I'd be bulged way out to the right. This side caved in, and just like before I went into the ER the one night, like just laying on the floor thinking about pissing on the floor instead of getting up on the toilet because it's so painful, and
So you've lived it. You understand.
But much less than you. I mean, I was there I'd had back issues here and there throughout the years, and then when it finally ruptured, it was really bad. And then, they got me into surgery fast because of the paralyzed foot. Like they were like, hey, the longer those nerves sit there dead, the less chance you have of it coming back. So I was in a few days, and then came out of surgery, and fortunately for me, I mean, it was, I think, probably a simpler surgery than yours, but they, it was like instantly better, like overnight.
Thank God for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But people, like, there's no, like, the pain you're talking about that you were dealing with and probably still do deal with, there's no just, like, toughing it out. It's not like shoulder pain or knee pain or, there, when that nerve pain, and the more you try to do and the more it fires up, the more it shuts your body down. I mean, it's debilitating pain. So I feel for you for sure.
Yep. But back to tennis, I mean, that's literally like, I think I went through that whole, like, my life played out the way that it did, maybe to prepare me for that moment and this time, this season in my life. From a mentality standpoint, I mean, it was more mental toughness than I ever thought I was even capable of.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother thing that I could probably spend an hour talking on. It's just, you are capable of, a person is capable of so much more. And I think actually David Goggins said it. It's like when you think you've given it all you've got, like all you've got, you've only tapped into 40% of what you're capable of. And I know that to be true because I literally lived that. Like when I thought I gave it all that I could, even just in this recovery stage, I had to keep going every second alive. Like this autoimmune, I came down with this called CRPS. It's complex regional pain syndrome. And not a lot of people have it. So, to even say this now and to spread awareness about it is important to me, but its nickname is the suicide disease. It's the highest pain level on that 1 through 50 worldwide scale, like 50 being the toughest pain, like the hardest pain ever, most excruciating pain. It's a 47 and it's the highest rated pain. It's crazy. And so like literally every second that I was just able to keep myself going was a victory. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Tough.
Yeah. And I remember just for the short time thinking, most of us know someone in life that has like debilitating back pain, like throughout their whole life. And you start thinking like, is this the rest of my life? Like it mentally becomes a challenge. And mine was very short compared to what you dealt with. But, you realize how much you take for granted feeling healthy when you do feel healthy, when you're in that spot and you're like, if this is the pain I'm going to have for the rest of my life, like it's not good.
I tell everybody, like part of your grateful prayers should be thank you to all of my nerves for functioning properly. Like if you have functioning nerves, because just like you said, you never know what that feeling is or what you cannot do without the function of until you go through something like that. I mean, it's bananas.
Right. Amazing.
And you tie it back to business. So like, this is our livelihood. And we thought COVID was going to screw us. After that, I was like, man, the COO, the lead salesperson for our business is in this situation. And I have a picture of her, I think it was 16 days later, maybe even less, back on the phones, making sales calls. Her feet are up on a block. I don't know
about sales calls. I think I was just trying to keep the company going.
Yeah.
I think the sales took a break. It was just like, but I had to work. There are things that I do in our business that no one else does. And that's also
entrepreneurship.
That's also, lessons for entrepreneurs too. It's like you have to find your replacement. You have to find, so that was a big lesson for me too of, okay, how are we going to grow this to where these certain things.
Being single sourced in anything, whether it's your supply chain or your expertise, whatever, and it's nice to say, it's easy to sit here and say that that's a lesson, but also could you really have done anything about it? Like when you're barely making it, when you're broke or when you're just barely starting, it's like, well, I know I'm single sourced here, but I can't afford to hire another person, or I
think it's the eventually, like it's that goal, it's that next carrot.
Yeah.
Like, okay, because we worked so lean until we were at a certain revenue point and where it was smart to start hiring. But yeah, lessons all around.
It's a balance, like being lean and doing it that way, exactly how we had to do it. And frankly, we're sitting here in my backyard, frankly. Like there's a reason we didn't buy land and build a building 2 years ago. Right. So like being lean is really good. And then also having the wisdom to recognize when being lean is starting to hurt you.
Exactly.
And hold back your potential.
And that's what happened with this
Great.
third round of hiring. But, and then as a couple though too, like we're working together, we're living together, we're parenting together. And during this season, she had that going on. But on the marital side, I mean, I'm now essentially taking care of Jack because Jack can't even touch her while, emptying bedpans. Like, at 38, I mean, you kind of think like, for good, for better or worse, like you think of like in your 80s, you're not thinking that. And so she's on sales calls, taking care of her. And that's where I think I said to myself one night, and I said to God too, I was like, if we come out of this unscathed, we're going to be unstoppable. I mean, I thought we were solid before, but if we could get out of this, bring it on. Bring it on. I mean, I am face to face right now with the devil, and I'm holding that machete right there. I'm like, bring it on, devil. And
I hate when you say that.
I know, but I mean, you got to have a good adversary.
But no, kudos to John. He really.
I'm not saying that to brag on myself. What I'm saying is like we stood so strong together, and then we had built what we had built. I never thought would be stronger, but then in those moments is where you find that extra mile you have to go.
Right.
And you have to step up and do things you never expect you're ever going to do. And I think that
makes the day-to-day of doing what you're doing today much easier. Like you're, not that it's still not a challenge, but not anywhere near as challenging as stuff you've already been through.
Yeah.
Well, you could have very easily have called the quit, push the quit button, but you didn't. You leaned in, and it's like I told you and your wife earlier, Josh. We're husband and wives working together, building companies together. We're needles in a haystack, and But yeah, you leaned in, and I'll forever be grateful for that. Yeah.
Well, you guys are a power couple. Anything else you want to chat about? Where can people find your Hook and Barrel magazine and social medias and all that stuff?
I'll let you send it off.
Yeah. So shout out to all of our store distribution partners. So not only are we in a lot of the Bass Pros and Cabela's in the South, but we are in America's top tier independent outdoor retailers across the country. And
for free.
Yeah. So anybody that we have a partnership with on a store level, we have our own custom Hook and Barrel stands at the exits of each store. And so you as the customer can stop by and pick it up for free. And that we have a waiting list of stores that want to distribute our magazine, which is really exciting because obviously it's not just something that's sitting there. Yes, it's for free, but if it's garbage, people aren't going to pick it up. Right. So it's a win-win. It's kind of like the store gets free marketing too, because we're working with all of the brands that they sell.
Right.
But anyways, so any of the stores that we're in, you can find those on our website, and then also hookandbarrel.com. You can subscribe to your door. It's $39.99 for the year, 6 issues a year. Digital subscription with our e-news is free. You just enter your email. And
social media. So social media,
Hook and Barrel,
all the usual suspects.
Yep.
But actually, we're actually proud of this one. We just launched a Spotify channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you should do this too, Josh, actually. So the Spotify channel is we are working with the artists or the musicians or the subject matter experts we're talking to. Share your playlist. Like, what does Josh Smith listen to in his day off? We just launched it with John Cooper from Skillet. So what does he listen to? And so you could actually, just another layer of the media, how bring our pages to life. What are these guys listening to? Or what are these band members kind of jamming to? And so, you can check that out. And so, and stay tuned. I think the newest thing for us is our YouTube channel. Seems kind of crazy that we're just now getting into the YouTube scene, but we have 2 independent video series that are coming this year. And the first one launches the 3rd week of July. So just follow Hook and Barrel magazine on YouTube, and you could be the first to watch this series. It's going to be awesome. It's called Lights Out.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. Well, man, you guys are busy. It's really cool what you've done. I love the story. I mean, I didn't know, frankly, any of that story, so it's very, very cool, very inspiring, and it is cool that you guys are doing it as a couple and actually still like each other. you know, and you're doing it as mom and dad as well. So, again, it's what I've been preaching since I started mine is like for people that are stuck in jobs that are miserable, or maybe they have ideas or they feel like they're being underutilized. You know, man, I mean, you got to live it 24 hours a day, but if you want to go chase it and work hard like you guys have, you can be successful. It's very cool what you've done.
Well, and you too.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
huge
Well,
fans of you guys. So
this
just-
facility, how you've grown it from what you have is it's an inspiration to me. I was walking around like, man, this guy's really smart. Let's hang out here for a little while, learn a few more things.
Like you said, hire good people, hire smart people.
yeah,
So,
invest in people.
yep. All right. Well, thanks guys.
We appreciate you.
Thanks,
Thank
Josh.
you.
Appreciate
Thanks.
you.